Hello and welcome back to the building of the bend buckle Falcon, and as you can see I've started the covering process. The tail feathers have now been covered. This has been done with 100% polyester fabric. It's been held in place using Mod Podge as the adhesive, which is then ironed on, and it is up to now it's had 2 coats of clear shrinking dope, and as you can hear it's produced a drum tight finish. That dope was very much thinned down as well. It won't stay in this state, but I will leave the open areas in this translucent covering. I think it looks rather nice, and when it comes to the wings they'll show off the superstructure really well. I will be painting the solid areas that are sheeted in a dark blue. I think at the moment is the colour I'm leaning towards, and I think that pattern repeated in the wooden areas on the fuselage with perhaps some rays coming down will look rather neat. The other thing I wanted to illustrate is where the CG is sitting at the moment with only the engine and the tail added. Of course the tail, because of the moment between the CG and the rear, the fulcrum point's here and it doesn't take a lot of weight to make a big difference. Let's just put that wheel back in place. A big difference to the overall balance. But I'm very encouraged that at the moment the CG is coming out about an inch further forward than I would like. And I would hope that I'll be able to achieve a good balance point without resorting to pinching some lead from the church roof. I'll be able to achieve that, I hope, by using the radio gear alone. To help me do that, I've gone way over the top with the servos. I have 2 of these for the elevator and the rudder. The one that will operate the linkage to the engine will be much smaller, but there's a bit of weight to these. They're massively over the top. They'll pull 15 kilograms of weight. I'll never need that on a vintage model like this, but the weight itself will be useful. They're all metal in achieving a CG point. Along with a nice hefty flight battery, I'm sure that I'll be able to produce a balance point that doesn't mean I have to resort to additional weight. Of course, when the rear is covered, that's going to pull the model towards a tail heavy effect. So I need to cover the fuselage first to see where we are. The wings will actually have very little impact because they sit over the top of the balance point. Before I can actually start covering this, I need to do some work on it other than just sanding it down. And to illustrate that, I'm going to go a little bit closer. As you can see, the stringers sit and are held in position by these formers, and I know that if I sand this down and then put covering over the top of this without any more work, when the covering shrinks down it's going to be held up by these formers and it's going to look, in my view, awful. It's going to look like a hungry horse. So what I'll do is I'll remove the material between the stringers by using some dowels and some glass paper and rubbing it down, perhaps even a Dremel in some of the larger gaps, so that when it's covered we get a nice clean run, uninterrupted by these formers when the covering shrinks over the top. That's the next task. And I also have another one, and this is by way of an admission. I had hoped that the tail surfaces, which are removable, could be held in place by a dowel which runs through here and 2 bolts which are actually, you can't see obviously, are located under here. However, because the dowel sits in this position, this is what I've noticed. Now that's obviously not desirable. That's not obviously glued in yet. So, although I hadn't wanted to, that dowel's going to need to be cut clean at the bottom, and I will need a tang or a dowel between the tail surface and the fuselage at this forward point to hold the whole lot in place. But overall, I'm really pleased with where we've got to. I hope you've enjoyed that little update, and you'll continue to come back to see the further progress of this build. If you can, get out flying, and if you can't, get on that building board. It's at least 50% of the fun. Bye for now.